Hey you guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel, MrBee Handyman Specialist. Today, I'm going to show you guys how I replace the tie rod in and the lower bar joint on a 2007 Toyota Highlander Hybrid. This right here, that's the tie rod in. I'm going to show you how I replaced it. And this right here, I'm going to show you how to replace the lower bar joint. It's fairly easy. It's not hard at all. You just need to take your time and don't rush, and you'll get it done in no time. So, alright, let's get to it. You want to remove the caliper first. There's two bolts holding on to it. It's a 14mm bolt. That's one, that's two. Remove this one. And what you want to do is using either a rope or a bungee cord or something like this to hold the caliper up out of your way, so it won't fall down while you're working on the lower bar joint and the tie rod in. That's why I hang this right here, so it'll be out of your way. And to make it easier, go ahead and turn your steering wheel all the way to the right, so this one can pivot to the right, so you have more room to remove these two bolts right here, the caliper mounting bracket. Alright, now you got more room, plenty of space. Then you can use your impact and remove the caliper mounting bracket. There's two bolts holding on to the caliper mounting bracket. It's a 17mm bolt. There's one on top, there's one on the bottom. This one right there, and another one down here. There you go. Go ahead and remove brake rotor. Get that out of the way. And then now, straighten up your steering wheel. Make sure it's straight, so it'll be easier to remove this CV shaft nut right here. Now the next thing, you need to remove the speed sensor, which is right here. Go ahead and remove that. Get out of the way. It's a 10mm bolt. There you go, that's the speed sensor. And remove this bracket right here, so you can get some slack. You can just lift this little plastic piece up, pop it off. See how easy it is? Go ahead and just hang it somewhere so it won't get damaged. You need to break this bolt loose. It's the tie rod end nut, the one that holds the tie rod in place. Alright, I'm gonna show you why I'm using a Teflon tape. You can use a Teflon tape, or you can use a permanent marker, kind of mark the thread. So when you put the new tie rod in, you can get the same position, so your alignment won't be off as much. But at the end, once you're done, you still have to take your car to the alignment shop to get it properly aligned. So this one is just for the reference, so your alignment won't be off as much. So I'm using Teflon tape. Just gonna wrap this around temporarily. I'm gonna use this as my reference point. Now you see that right there? That Teflon tape, to use it as a reference point. Just so you know. Next, you want to remove this cotter pin. remove that out of the way and use an impact to remove this bolt right here. If you have tough time removing this cotter pin right here, what you can do, you can use a little punch and kind of knock it out. If you can't pull it out, you can use the punch. There you go, pretty easy. It's easier when you use a punch. Now this castle nut right here is a 17 millimeter. Go ahead and remove that. Now you want to use this tool right here to pop the tie rod end up and slide it in. Alright, if it's hard to get out, if it's hard to remove, go ahead and squirt some WD-40 on there and let it sit for a couple minutes. Let it soak for a little bit and then try to hit it back, see if it's gonna come out. There you go. Okay, since I got a Teflon tape wrapped around the tie rod end, so it's considered as, you know, marked. You can use a permanent marker to mark it, but I use the Teflon tape. And you can count how many turns when you remove. That's good too. But for me, I'm not counting it, but I'm gonna tell you why I'm not counting it. If you count it, count how many turns you remove, that's great. But that counting how many turns you remove is, you should consider if you bought the OEM tie rod in from the dealership. But if you're gonna use aftermarket part, then counting turns is not necessary, but I'm gonna tell you why. Like, go ahead and count how many turns it is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So 12 turn. Okay, I'm going to show you the difference. This one is the OEM from Toyota. This one's the aftermarket part from TRQ. And if you look inside, you see how the thread depth is totally different. This one is, the thread is up here, and this new part right here, the thread is all the way down. So basically it's like almost a 1/4 inch deeper than this right here. But the length, they are the same length, but the thread is different length. So that's why if you use an OEM, you can go ahead and put it in 12 turns, but this one you cannot do 12 turns. You just have to go with the mark to see how far it reaches to the mark. And before you install this right here, make sure this hole, there's a cotter pin hole right here, or in parallel. Right now it's kind of offset like this. See, what you do, use a punch and just go ahead and twist it right there. That's how it should be, because when you put it in, it's going to be up like this, and you want the hole to face the front and the back, so it'll be easier to put a cotter pin in there. If the hole is like this, it's going to be hard for you to put a cotter pin in and try to bend it. You see what I'm getting? See, like this, it's easier because you have more room. Put a cotter pin in, it'll come out, and then you just bend it up. Since I'm using an aftermarket tie rod end, I cannot do 12 turn anymore. I have to go by the mark. Make sure it reaches to that mark right there, or the Teflon tape. But if I go with the OEM one from the Toyota, it'll be a perfect part right there. So you can do 12 turns, because this one, this is the original OEM part from Toyota. This one is not. It's from TRQ. So it's different, but it's all good. Just have to go by from that mark right there. There you go. Now you see that mark? The Teflon tape. So it's good right there. Okay, next step, you need to remove these two bolts right here. So you can bend this back so you can have more room to remove the lower ball joint castle nut. This one is 22 millimeter. Before I do anything, just squirt some WD-40 on there. To make your life a little bit easier. Let it sit for a little bit. See how easy it is? If you squirt a little bit of WD-40 on there, it makes the job a whole lot easier. The next step, which is remove this CV axle bolt right here. If you notice, there's a little dent right here because they use that to they knock this down to lock it down so the nut won't come out. So what you have to do is you try to pry this up. So you'll be able to remove this nut right here. Try to knock this up. And this nut right here is a 32 millimeter. Go ahead and tap on that. You can use a little punch. Just tap the bolt out. Go ahead and move the CV shaft out, and then this should be able to fall back. There you go. See how easy that one is? Now you need to remove that cotter pin and use an impact wrench to remove this castle nut right here. I would have squirted some WD-40 on there, just a little bit. Just to loosen up that rust, and then you can try to knock the cotter pin out the other way. Could be a little tough because it's so rusted. I don't know how long this one been in there. Might be for ages. There you go. Got it out. Now this castle nut is a 19 millimeter. Now you're gonna need to remove these two nuts right here and a bolt. Underneath here, the one that's holding on to the lower bar joint, and it's a 17 millimeter, all three of them, the two nuts and a bolt. There you go. And what I usually do, just get a little hammer, kind of tap this one out, and it should drop right off. There you go. And if you notice, that one have R imprinted on there. That means that's right hand side. If you were sitting on the driver's side, this is your right hand, which is to your right, because this one is all marked. And on the left side, on the driver's side, it's gonna have letter L on it, which is left hand, and this one is right hand. Now this is the new part from TRQ. It's an aftermarket part. It's not the OEM original part, alright? So that's what I'm using right now. And it comes with all the nuts and bolts to install this lower ball joint. Now before you install this right here, make sure the hole parallel to your car, so it'd be easier to put a cotter pin in. Alright, so that's good right there. It didn't have to be perfect. That's how it should look like. Now go ahead and install these right here. Now if you notice, these come with a cotter pin, 3 nuts, and a bolt. So this is what they go by. I mean, you can use the original bolts, that's fine, but I'd rather use the brand new one. And if you want to know the torque specification on these are 94 foot-pound, and this right here also 94 foot-pound. But I usually wouldn't worry about torquing the suspension. I just use impact, and that should be fine for me right there. Go ahead and slide this one from the bottom. Alright, that should hold right there. You can torque it down if you want, but I'm not torquing it down. I'm pretty sure it's tighter than 94 foot-pound because I use an impact. So, should be alright. Go ahead and bend this right here. Put the spindle back on. Put the castle nut on. This castle nut right here is, you can torque it down to 90 foot-pound. So I'm not gonna bother it. I'm just gonna use impact. Put the cotter pin in. Make sure the castle nut is lined up with the hole so you can stick the cotter pin in. When you put a cotter pin in, you can see this right here, right? There's one longer than the other. Usually I put the long one facing upward and just bend only one side of the cotter pin. It depends on the preference. So you can bend both, but I'd rather just bend one. Because when you bend a metal, it gets weaker. So that's why I just rather just bend one, so I can have the strength to hold up the castle nut. See that right there, see? I bend only one side. Let's put the CV shaft back on. Make sure you line up the teeth. It should go in freely. Don't force it in. There you go. Now let's put the nut back on just to hold it. Now since this one is not in all the way yet, you can slowly tighten this CV bolt right here. Do it slowly. Now what I do, I don't torque this down because it's not necessary in my opinion. I just tight as tight I can get, but not super tight. It depends on your impact wrench too. So if your impact is super strong, you might snap it in half. So since my impact is kind of mid-size, so I just use that and just shoot it in until it slowly tighten, and then I'm just stop right there. And I usually just line up this little dented right here. That's the one that I kind of pry it out before I remove the nut. So I'm kind of lined up with this right here, and I'm gonna use a punch, a little dent down there, so it'll lock the nut in place. Just give it a little tap. Just a little tap right there. That's all you need it. And then before you put this bolt back on, these two bolts, you go ahead and get a wire brush, kind of brush this off a little bit, and just coat it with WD-40 so it'll be easier next time to remove it. Alright, now put the bolt back on. Now on these two bolts, it's the same thing. I'm just gonna use the impact wrench just to tighten it up. You can torque it if you want, but impact is gonna tie up more than the torque specification, so that's fine with me. That's why I want it to be anyways, because suspension. You can if you want to torque it down, but in my opinion, I think it's a hassle just to torque the suspension down. I mean, if we're talking about the motor wise, yeah, I would torque every bolt and nuts down. But as for suspension, impact wrench is good enough. This one right here is 22 millimeter. Now you want to put another wrench on the other side because this one is spin. See, when it tight it kind of spin along with it. Just gonna use a crescent wrench to hold it. That should be good enough right there. You don't want it super tight, and then when it's next time for you to replace the part, you can't take the bolt out. So it's good right here. Sometime the torque specification for the bolts from the factory usually is over tight, like super tight, that you can't even get a tool to remove the bolt out. You need like a super strength impact wrench just to take them out. Those impacts are very expensive. I'm not gonna spend thousands of dollars just to get a super high impact that can super tight the bolt. Let's put this brake on. Now you need to put this on and use these bolts. And this one, I gotta torque it down because these bolts, they are not made out of steel, it's made out of soft aluminum. So if you over tighten it, you are going to snap them in half. So I definitely will have to torque this one down. You can see this right here, there's two bolts right here. It's the caliper bracket bolt. So you need to torque these two down to 79 foot-pounds. And this two right here, the caliper pin, there are 25 foot-pounds of torque. So you want to torque these down, and don't over torque it because the bolts are made of aluminum, soft aluminum. So you don't want to snap it in half. Alright, let's turn this back. Now reinstall the caliper. Alright, these two bolts are 25 foot-pounds. Alright, I'm gonna go ahead and remove this Teflon tape right here since I already line up my tie rod in. Alright, put it back in there. Now you gotta straight up the steering wheel. Alright, let's put the castle nut on. Gonna do the same thing, I'm just gonna use my impact wrench to tighten this one up. But if you want to torque it down, you can. It's 36 foot-pounds of torque. So, but I'm just not gonna torque this one down. I'm just gonna use my impact wrench for that one. Alright, this castle nut right here is 18 millimeter. Insert the cotter pin. Gotta reinstall the speed sensor. That's a 10 millimeter. Go ahead and snap this back. Boom, that's it. Not bad at all, right? Now the last part is to put the wheel back on, torque it down to 76 foot-pound, and after that take it for a test drive, see if everything's good. And after that you need to schedule an alignment shop and take your car over there to get your car alignment to make sure the alignment is set correctly, because this one, when you replace the tie rod, and you just basically, that's pretty much it, just eyeballing it and try to get as close as original as possible, and then you have to take it to the alignment shop to get a computerized alignment. So that's it. So I hope this video will help you, and if you like this video, go ahead and like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, thanks for watching.